What's up, CHFFL? Welcome to week 8 of the 2022 season. We are again live. Thanks for your patience. I think we're just going to be late every week because whatever time I tell you, I'm not going to be ready then. I do have here, I'm joined by a producer, Alessandro Raimondo, who's my co-owner in the Dynasty League, to make sure that I'm actually checking your chats throughout this whole stream. Let's get started. It is pretty exciting interleague. So the first week of interleague play, week 7, the Smut Hut, of course, took 5 of the 6 games. But then this past week, the MAGA Gang strikes back, clean sweep across the board. The average scores were higher this week, closer to our historical average at 126.3. We have a trade review. Parker, still on the move, trades Juju to Banis for a 6th round pick. So after Allen Lazard last week, Parker accumulating that mid-round depth for next year. This is a down year for him, and I don't think we've seen Parker front-loaded at the draft. We're going to see that next year. He's going to have a lot of draft capital. For Banis, this is just a depth add. Juju has had a couple 20-plus point games after disappointing the first few weeks of the season. And I guess you're hoping that he's going to keep being hot. He's going to keep being Mahomes' top target, because otherwise he's right in the mix on Banis and Jason's team. After it's AJ Brown and T. Higgins, they have a few guys there who are all kind of the same value, hoping that Juju can maintain the high upside. I thought this was a good price for Pa, especially since he picked Juju up off of waivers. He's doing a good job tanking, basically. And I think he has to be happy with the prices he's gotten so far. If he's able to keep picking up valuable people and moving them, he could be looking very good heading into next year. Let's get to the waiver report for this past week. The big one was Bill, after having dropped Jerry Jeudy last week, picks him up again for $45. It's what he had to do. Cramped roster spaces, had to get rid of him. Went out and was able to get him back, luckily. Parker picks up Paris Campbell for $10. You're going to have a new quarterback in Indianapolis, and we'll see what happens. Campbell's had a couple of big weeks with Matt Ryan where he's gotten a lot of targets. Campbell disappointing up to this point in his career. I think he's 25 years old now, but people have been expecting him for some time. I've owned him in our league at a few different times, and Al and I have him in the Dynasty League right now. So it's possible that he could become the guy with this new rookie who's going to be starting. Grant picks up Zay Jones for $5, following his pattern of picking guys up who I drop. Alec Pierce a couple weeks ago, Zay Jones now. Wide receiver depth. He's getting a lot of targets in Jacksonville. I dropped him because it just seems like he has no ceiling. He's going to be okay in PPR. He's an okay bye-week fill-in, but not bad depth add for Grant there. Bill, after the failed Matt Ryan experience, runs back to Matt Stafford, $5, hoping for forgiveness for dropping him in the first place. Banis picks up Van Jefferson for $3, and Swan grabs Dawson Knox for $1. And then the big one, Thursday, after the first round of waivers cleared, Wes, with Patrick Mahomes on the bye, went out shopping for a quarterback and paid $29 for Jared Goff. Pretty high price. Nobody else bid on Goff. Nobody else is desperate for a bye-week fill-in as Wes. So I think definitely a misuse of some funds. Of course, you got to go get your guy. He also bid 21 on Daniel Jones, and there was just no way that 2 other people in the league were going to outbid him for those. That was a little surprising to me, but he did get his guy, and it just goes to show, if you're not one of those super teams right now, how desperate you are to not drop a week. You can't take a loss. You can't get one more game behind. Wes needed to make sure he had someone he felt comfortable streaming. All right, now on to the fun part. We're going to get into the predictions for this week. I've continued to be very consistent. I was 4-2 again last week. I had 4 of the MAGA Gang winning. I missed on the 2 big ones, though. I missed on Banis and Swan. I thought both of them would take it. Max was our team of the week. As this conference war wages, let's switch over to our browser view so we can go over these games. We do have a London game happening right now. London games always, I think, very stupid. But that's just me. I don't like England that much. And I don't like games being played at 9:30 in the morning. Whereas See, we have Fantasy Pros up there, and then here's our ESPN. So let's start this week with my Atlanta Pipe Burst and Swans. Cook bursting on your cheek. Dalvin Cook, known for his explosiveness. He can power up through the middle, lower that shoulder, and just hit you right in the jaw. I'm sure that's what reference is into. And Swan picks up 36.62 on Thursday between Jackson and Leonard Fournette. It's about where they were expecting. Not too big, but not a disappointment either. We have Derek and I have Greg Dulcich going right now over in Jacksonville. Looks like he doesn't have any catches yet. Obviously, with Kelsey on the bye, makes that a little tougher. Swan, we see Montgomery and Ceedee on his bench. Swan has too many player syndrome. This was the same thing when he was picking his keepers. He had too many keeper syndrome. Now he has too many players, sitting some good guys, and it's really hard to move up 2-for-1s to get the top guys in the league. Nobody wants to make Swan stronger. Ken Walker in there at flex, Justin Jefferson always very strong, and of course the titular Dalvin Cook. Bills defense against Green Bay this week should be fine. The Bills defense, best in the league in my opinion. Over on my side, we have Josh Allen back off of bye, and then Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb going. Chubb with a tough matchup there in Cincinnati. They've actually been pretty effective with limiting opposing running backs, scoring, and fantasy. It's the wide receivers that are still always the question for us. We have Keenan Allen on bye, hopefully getting fully healthy so he can come back 100%. Brandon Cooks and Michael Pittman, you just can't feel super comfortable with them. And then we're stuck with Kareem Hunt in our flex. This week, Fantasy Pros doesn't like us as much, has us 8th in the league at an 87 score overall, with Swan being the top team in the league this week. As much as I like to have hometown loyalty, cannot predict that my Pipe Burst gets a win this week. I think we're going to drop one, and Swan is going to cut his 2-game losing streak. All right, Lex, let's move over to minis. Kanye Kitty Killers 2024. The Face Jam, Bannis' Face Jam 2. Mini with 13.5 from Chris Godwin on Thursday. Respectable. Tampa Bay just can't quite get it going, but Brady does really like to throw to Godwin, and in PPR, he has a very solid floor. Over on the other side, Bannis already at 45.4. He does have Jags D going right now, accounting for 22 of those, so that's going to come down, presumably. I mean, Denver stinks, but not that much. I assume they will score some points. We had 6.3 from Mark Andrews, who's now had a couple of duds in a row. Really has separated the tiers at tight end. You were thinking that it was Kelsey and Andrew were pretty much the same up there at the top, but in the past couple weeks, Kelsey has shown that he has the steadier floor. Jackson can get distracted and stop feeding Andrews. Tom Brady with 17.1 points. Again, that's fine. He might not be the best real life quarterback this year, but in terms of a fantasy, especially in our league that rewards volume, Tom Brady is a fine starter for Bannis. Now, Mini coming off a strong upset, looking for a second one. We got Kamara going against Las Vegas. Kamara hasn't been 100% himself, but he still is a very solid start. Let's see, how many points is Kamara averaging a game? I mean, he's at 16.8, so it's not the top of the league RB1 that you've been hoping for, but if he scores a couple touchdowns, you could get a lot of points there. Freiermuth, fairly consistent. Jamal Williams in the flex. Swift is off the injury report for today and is going to play. Makes Williams a much more risky starter, especially since Detroit's defense, after a couple of good weeks, has really plummeted. Not sure how I think about Mini. Fantasy Pros has him at 89, right in the middle of the pack. Bannis up at 95, still has Mixon and Barkley, AJ Brown, T. Higgins. Bannis not missing anybody big to buys or to injuries at pretty much full strength. It would be irresponsible of me to pick Mini to get another upset this week. I'm going with Bannis here. We're going to skip over Wes and Stan because that is my most interesting game of this week. Oh, we have some chat. We have some chat regarding that game. Stan is talking a little bit of trash. We'll go over that when we get to it. That's going to be our game of the week. For now, though, let's go to Grant's team, not saying that, versus Max Super MAGA. It's not a joke. We have some players playing right now. Grant has Travis Etienne going, already put up 11.7 in the first half. So really good start for Grant there. The Broncos defense already down to 7 points. Could give up obviously a lot more in the second half if Jacksonville keeps rolling. And it's always nice when you have for Grant, Etienne scores a touchdown, Max loses points too. So that's a good start for Grant. We're going to have Christian McCaffrey this week, his first real game with San Francisco. And Grant obviously hoping the score is going to be a lot higher. He was okay last week. How many did he have in our scoring? I'm curious. Last week, he's averaging 20 on the year. And if I can just scroll down here, yeah, he only had 8.2 last week, 8 carries. You assume he's going to get a lot more work this week. I like McCaffrey long term to maintain his top 5 running back value, but it is still an unknown, which is not good when you have someone who's already at the top. Tyreek Hill against Detroit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the health has just been a thing. I see he's questionable right now. I don't know if he's good to go or if he's going to be involved, if he is going. That Detroit offense has just been very disappointing after a strong start to the year. Darren Waller, first game after the big trade. Didn't really talk about the trade. They covered it very thoroughly on the Two Tight Ends podcast this week, which if you have not yet gone and listened, you certainly should. But Grant finally gave up on Kyle Pitts. We'll see if Darren Waller can be more consistent for him. Not missing anybody in particular to buys. James Conner still injured, and DK Metcalf is going to play today, but can't really trust him. We took him out of our dynasty lineup, and it looks like Grant is not going to roll him out there this week, at least as of right now. Over on the other side for Max, needing every game that he can get at 3-4 right now. We have Andy Dalton starting at quarterback with Justin Herbert on a bye. Josh Jacobs continuing to be the bright spot of this team. And I have to go back to our draft recap episode of Two Tight Ends, because I'm pretty sure I pointed out that I thought Josh Jacobs was a big value then, and I want that to be acknowledged. Anyway, Raheem Mostert has replaced James Robinson in Max's lineup. Been talking about that in recent weeks. Curtis Samuel, George Kittle, good floor there, and now we have Donta Foreman in there. I don't like... Well, I think last week was a real fluke for the Panthers, and I know that there's some magic when you have a head coach firing. The team sometimes gets inspired for whatever reason and does well. I just don't see Foreman or Hubbard putting up points consistently week in and week out. Max doesn't really have any better options, though, to put in at flex. So it just looks like this is an uphill battle. I know that the MAGA had a great week last week, but just looking at these matchups, I see a lot of uphill battles. Grant has a 92 on Fantasy Pros this week. Max is down here at an 82. See a lot of the MAGA gang below a lot of the Smut Hut. And I think this is going to be the seesaw is going to happen again, and it looks like the Smut Hut's going to take a lot here. I'm taking Grant. I'm taking Grant again. One more win for the Smut Hut. Moving on to Marty's Thrusters against Mark's Lady G's Beard. One where the MAGA gang could get it. Marty rolling out Devin Singletary, Khalil Herbert. Seems like he and Montgomery are in more of a split now, and they can't really expect Chicago to have a consistent offense from week to week. Scary Terry had a big game last week, didn't he? I haven't checked this. Yeah, 18.3 was his best of the season so far, so maybe having a little better rapport Heineke in there. Adams, still no word on a suspension, and we have Diggs back off the bye week this week, so Marty is back to his full strength. And just like Max at 3-4, Marty needs every win he can get during interleague, especially I predicted the guys ahead of him to get wins this week, and this is a tough one against Mark. Mark has Geno Smith in there at quarterback right now. Didn't Mark have Dak? Yeah, and he's going with Geno over Dak. That is how wild this year has been. DeAndre Swift back in the starting lineup for Mark. Miles Sanders, of course, having a better season than expected. Cup and Lockett down week last week, but still overall a better season than expected to this point. And then Eno Benjamin still in the starting lineup. James Conner still out, so no reason not to. He's essentially a workhorse right now. Patriots, who are they playing? The Jets. Could be a good matchup for him. I like the Cowboys playing Chicago better, so I think that's a matchup advantage for Marty. Fantasy Pros here has Mark at a 92 and Marty at an 87. This is the closest game that we've looked at yet. I'm going to go for the upset here. And I'm picking another Smut Hut, aren't I? I think that Marty is going to take this in the upset. I just like Diggs being back off the bye. Adams in there. And Mark is missing. Chase is going to be out for a few weeks. Not as long as expected when the injury was first announced. He's not going to go to the IR, but still missing Chase. That gives Marty the advantage with the high upside guys in Diggs and Adams. I like Marty to take this one. Sneak it out from Mark. All right, now let's go to our annual seller. Grant said, that's what's Smut Hit Kings. Grant, have you ever read anything that you've typed before posting it? Now, I know it's the chat that's supposed to ask me questions, but I'm just curious. All right. Parker has Trevor Lawrence playing right now over in London. Rashad White got him 7.3 on Thursday. Suck up 10 on Thursday. But Parker has called it in for this season. He's doing a fantastic job getting ready for next year. A.J. Dillon still to go. Ayuk, there's just nobody here to be particularly excited about. Although, since he picked up Paris Campbell, you can expect Campbell is going to do well for a couple weeks and then get traded for a 6th-round pick. That seems to be what's happening. Now, on the other side, Bill is McConnellsville Mutineers. Got 8.5 from the Gus Bus and 18.3 from Mike Evans on Thursday. The kickers came out with about a tie. Tucker scoring 1 fewer than Suckup. But Bill has, since the waiver period, gone out and gotten Danny Dimes after I streamed him for 30-plus points last week. Plugged him into that quarterback position. Stan comments on Grant, it's a little early to be drunk. Well, this is what they do when they play the London games, though. I can't really blame him if he's drunk right now. Brian Robinson still in there. The media darling got shot and getting all those carries only 5 weeks later. Chris Olave, fantastic rookie season so far. I don't want to spend too much time on any of Parker's games these days. Although, yeah, no, he's pretty far down below any other team. Bill, though, this week is the second to last team on Fantasy Pros, but he's still just favored heavily. It's a good week for Bill to have a down week. Is Bill missing anybody? Anybody big? Oh, yeah, Eckler. So Bill is missing his superstar at the perfect time to play Parker. Jerry Jeudy having a great game, justifying the $45 buy. He's already at 14.5 points, and we're not quite to halftime in that London game. So I'm taking Bill here, obviously, and I feel pretty safe with that one. All right, now let's get on to our game of the week. It's going to be Wes's Pokeballs and Pussycats against Stan's Grabber by the Pelosi. Stan previously commented that Wes is scared in reference to Wes spending so much money on a quarterback stream this week, that Wes is nervous about losing this game. Both teams come in at 3-4, both just on the outside looking in this playoff fight. And let's start with Wes, who does have Jared Goff in there. He paid $29 for against Miami, hoping for a high volume, hoping for a healthy Amon-Ra St. Brown. Goff, it just seems kind of risky. He's the 16th quarterback in scoring so far, averaging 17 a game, but he's high upside. He's had a 26-point week and a 35-point week. The last 2 games he's played, only 5.5 of a point. So, and separately, 5 points in one game, half a point in the other game. Hoping that Detroit offense can bounce back. Najee obviously been a disappointment, but Michael Carter should be getting the bulk of the carries now with Breece Hall out. Of course, as Wes said, he'd probably rather have Breece Hall. Lost him to injury. Patrick Mahomes on bye. little bit of an uphill battle for Wes. Oh, see, I didn't know that Alan Lazard was hurt after Wes went out and spent a 6th-round pick on him. That's rough. Ramondre Stevenson, though, has continued to be a high point for Wes. And of course, Gabe Davis has that boom potential, that 40-point week potential. We've seen it happen. It happened against the Steelers. Looking over on Stan, only 2.3 from Cortland Sutton through the first half. And gosh, that's so disappointing. I'm glad I took him out of our starting lineup. You just can't trust Denver's offense at all right now. But Joe Burrow has been a fantastic starting quarterback. He just has the volume so high that there aren't down weeks, and it doesn't matter that he's not a Konami code high running volume quarterback. Just completes so many passes and has that big play potential. He's not going to have Jamar Chase, which stinks, but he has plenty of weapons there. Not worried about it, and I think he's much better than Jared Goff, a much better start this week. Derrick Henry, of course, Stan's right-hand man for the last few years. Got to be a better start than Najee, too. I'm liking a few of these matchups for Stan, looking at it. Tony Pollard, I know Zeke was questionable. I think he's going to play, though, so I don't expect Pollard to have more than his usual workload, and we know what Pollard is. He doesn't get that many touches, but he's very effective with them. Waddle, Higbee, Gibson. Stan's team looks good. Looks good coming off a big win. Fantasy Pros has Wes at an 83 and Stan up at a 90. ESPN likes Stan as well. Looking for justification in my head. I mean, Wes went out and got the Jets defense, which has been very good this year, even though we never expect the Jets to be good at anything. Their defense has been very good this year, and they're playing New England, who's still going to have, I imagine, I don't know if Zappy or Jones is starting. Zappy got plugged in when the offense was struggling last week. But either way, New England's having a hard time figuring some things out. Do have the Jets, and he has Stevenson on the other side. So if Steven has a huge game and scores 2 or 3 touchdowns, it's hurting Wes's defense. I can't see the argument for Wes here. I'm picking the MAGA gang here. I'm going with the experts, and I'm taking Stan. All right, that's it for our previews. Pretty sure we hit all 6 games. Have you been keeping track?
Yeah.
All right, thank you to my producer. Let's get back on over. It's time to take any extra chats we have. I know a couple of people are watching, so I'll give you a minute here. Anybody has any questions for me or anything fun you want to talk about before I get off the stream? Al, you have anything to say about the CHFFL?
No, I think you covered everything.
All right, I've covered everything. I'm not missing any chat. So this is last week I went off, and then they were messaging me in Discord saying, no, you're missing us. We're here chatting. Okay. My phone hasn't been buzzing. I guess nobody has. Love the show. Keep it. Thanks, Stan. I assume you mean keep it up. I appreciate all of your support. I like doing it the live show way. Hopefully, as I get a little more comfortable with doing the live show, a little better production. Stan, who is the next team to sell off? That's a good question. I mean, the answer that comes to mind first is Mini. And see, we're into the 3rd week now. Who was Mini playing this week? I know I just went over all the games, but he has Banis this week, and then he has another tough game next week. So let me take the time to go see who Mini plays next week. But I know he had one of the hardest interleague schedules. He's already sitting at 2-5, and he has people who the top teams will be interested in buying. Kamara, Aaron Jones, Godwin. Just see, I'm right there. Oh, he plays Swan next week. So I think it has to be Mini. He plays Banis and then Swan next week. It would be really surprising if he gets a win there. So you're looking at being 2-7. Stan says his vote is Marty for selling off. And with Marty, I guess it depends on what selling is. I could see Marty half selling, but I think Marty's going to hold on hope up until the deadline as long as he still has a chance to make the playoffs. I could see him selling Adams, Devontae Adams for picks plus somebody startable and hoping that if he's still in it at the deadline, he could buy. But then I think you're right. He inevitably will have to sell the rest at the deadline. But I think Mini is the first person to be in total sell off mode. All right, that was great. That was a good question. Thank you for asking. And I'm going to say that that's going to call it a stream for us. Good luck to everybody this week. We will see you